Hi, everyone. If your faith needs a little boost, if you're having trouble believing that God is still working miracles in the midst of this crazy, evil world that we are having to live in, then please stay tuned. I've chosen a quote from St. Thomas Aquinas that I think kind of sums things up. To one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is possible. I know that the story of Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster, the nun who was recently exhumed and her body found to be apparently incorrupt, it's still being studied, has been covered by a lot of people in both the secular news and amongst, Catholic YouTubers and journalists. But I had a little different or a little additional perspective that I would like to share with you um, that would make it kind of maybe new news. For those of you who haven't heard about it yet, if you live under a rock, I will share a little bit about the story of Sister Wilhelmina. So Sister Wilhelmina is the foundress of the Benedictines of Mary, Queen of the Apostles. And here is a beautiful picture of her. So Sister Wilhelmina's body was exhumed in April because the nuns were building a shrine to St. Joseph, like a new chapel, a new church, and they wanted to move the body of their foundress to be buried in the new church. So she was actually not up for sainthood. Her body had been buried in a very moist environment, so the sisters were told, to just expect bones when this coffin was removed. And of course, to their utter surprise, when the coffin was opened, her body was found to look as though she had just been buried yesterday or as though she were sleeping. Now, the incredible thing to me is that her body was not embalmed before she was buried. So this kind of just adds another level to the incredibleness of this miracle here. Something that touched me about Sister Wilhelmina, those of you who've been watching me for a while or who know me personally know that I very much enjoy attending the Latin Mass. I feel like it is a beautiful, rich, and reverent part of our Catholic life, our Catholic history. It's the Mass that all of the greatest saints that we venerate and ask intercession of. It's the one that, most of them attended. And it's just a part of our tradition that I definitely do not want to see go away. Well, I learned in looking at the website for Sister's Order that it is a traditional Latin Mass order of nuns. So the nuns are very generously adapting to having visitors. They are allowing pilgrims to come visit from 8:30 to 7:30 every day. But these are the instructions that they give, and I think it says a lot about them. Out of respect for our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament and the sacredness of the place, we ask that all visitors dress appropriately. Please wear clothing that covers bare shoulders, no tank tops, no plunging necklines and skirts, shorts or pants that cover at least to the knees. We sincerely appreciate your cooperation in this most important request. If needed, there are skirts and shawls available in the church vestibule. If you attend Mass, please note that we celebrate the traditional Latin Mass in which Holy Communion is received on the tongue only and kneeling, unless one is unable to kneel. One must be a Catholic in the state of grace in order to receive communion, that is, with no unconfessed mortal sin. So I was very excited to learn that Sister was a traditional Latin Mass nun. I kind of think that this may be a miracle, a sign from God that attending the Latin Mass is definitely a good thing, or not something that someone should be ashamed of. And I think it is not a coincidence, but a God incidence that when the Latin Mass is, they're attempting to suppress it, do away with it as much as possible, even though there are the churches where Latin masses are held are like bursting at the seams with very pious, devout young families, families in between and old families. I just think it's really something that this would be brought to our attention at the very time that the beautiful Latin Mass is being suppressed. So that's my take on that. While I have you, I want to also share my take on Blessed Carlo Acutis. Now, you probably remember he was exhumed in 2019 because his case was put forward for sainthood. And there he is, a picture of the very handsome, fine young man. He was just a very ordinary, typical teenager who considered himself a, computer geek, and would spend a lot of time on his computer, as, sadly a lot of our teenagers do. But he became fascinated with the topic of Eucharistic miracles, and he really wanted to be able to visit and see as many Eucharistic miracles throughout the world as possible. But his life was cut short by leukemia. Before he died, he compiled a website of Eucharistic miracles, and I'm going to show you that website right now. This is Carlo's website, the Eucharistic Miracles of the World, and if you scroll down, you can choose your language, and you can see, oh my goodness, the Lord, cannot be outdone in his generosity. Look at all of the Eucharistic miracles that have occurred all around the world over the centuries. So does God still work miracles? Absolutely. He's constantly giving us hope through these miracles, trying to say, it's really me, believe. All right. So my thought about Carlo, and this is a picture of him in his glass tomb where he can now be visited and venerated in Assisi, is that during this time where, especially among Catholics, the belief in the real presence of Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Blessed Sacrament is at an all-time pathetic low. Again, God tries to get our attention, I think, with this incredible miracle of incorruptibility. And Carlo's life points to those Eucharistic miracles. God is trying to say, yes, have hope. I'm here. Believe. Believe. It's really me. It's really me. I've always been fascinated and found that reading about Eucharistic miracles and the miracle of incorruptibility, of bodies that do not decay after death, has just been fascinating to me. And I have a book called The Incorruptibles by Joan Carroll Cruz that is excellent if you would like to read more. In the book, there's the story of several incorruptibles, but there's also a listing of them. And do you know that over the years, there have been over 300 Eucharistic miracles? So, if you have faith, may these miracles just, set your heart ablaze with love for the Lord and belief and hope. And if your faith is waning, pray for an increase in the gift of faith and hope and love, and look into these incredible miracles, and may they bless you. May God bless you. Have a great day.